Hey everyone, and welcome to week 6. Looks like everybody's plugging along. You did some great work with the preconception studies and looking at what are the challenges with uh, addressing students' prior knowledge and maybe past learning. And so we're going to move forward. We're really going to get going now. We're going to actually cover the next 2 weeks in this video, partly because I am going to be out for shoulder surgery starting next week on the 15th for a couple weeks. And so I'm hopefully going to prepare you to do what you need to do for the next 2 weeks online. And then I'll hopefully be back with some additional videos for week 8. So, and that works well because you're going to start planning your first lesson. You're going to do an environmental education lesson that is actually outdoors, and it is going to incorporate children's literacy as well. So it's going to be a science and literacy combined lesson. And you're going to start with the project learning tree activity that you selected during week 5. So I see people still need to, quite a few people are still missing from identifying a lesson. But that needs to be done right away because you're going to decide a couple of things this week. I'm going to pull up the to-do list and kind of walk you through that, and then we'll talk about the specifics of each of those. So you're going to choose that PLT activity. You're going to put it, there's a sign-up sheet. So if you click here on the to-do list, you will get, it's also in the Google Drive. You'll get to this. So you have been assigned to a PLC group. And you can see there are some people who have already chosen their select activities. So put your activity and your name by it. This is the PLC group you were assigned to. So if you did not give me a specific grade level, then I just picked one for you. And so you have an option of working together with your group to plan this lesson, or you can work on it individually. I would recommend that you work on it as a group because this is going to be a bit of work. And if you work in a group, you can split this up and it will be a lot less work individually. But for some of you, that will pose more challenge because of this class being online. And so if you choose, you can work on it individually. So you only have 2 choices, either to work with your whole PLC group or to work individually. So everybody has to agree who's in your group. So once you've all selected an activity, if you decide to go off on your own, you can just move forward with that activity. If you decide to work with your group, you will have to figure out how to connect with each other and actually decide which one of the activities you're going to go forward with, and you'll have to change that in this sign-up sheet, letting me know so I know if you're working together in a group or individually. Additionally, birds and bugs I see is one of the ones somebody chose. That is the one that I actually used for example. And so that is one that I would not suggest that you do. You're going to be replicating a lot of the examples I've already provided to you. Okay, so back to the to-do list. Again, this is going to be a longer video because it actually covers weeks 6 and 7. So bear with me. I'll do my best to explain it as we walk through. So choose your lesson. Choose whether you're going to work alone or with your group. If you're going to work with your group, narrow your choices down to one lesson to move forward with. So week 6, you're going to just really review the science standard that I gave you and the PLT activity, and you're going to think about how you're going to plan an outdoor lesson that includes literacy. So the first week, we're going to focus on trade books or children's books. And the second week, week 7, we're going to focus on writing and using science notebooks. So if you look at our Google Drive, or not our Google Drive, but our Canvas site, you will see that under week 6, I have some information bringing back books article for you to read. I also have some other additional resources. This is the birds and worms. It's now called birds and bugs in PLT. And so it kind of gives you some examples of how I used, or actually I think this was a student's lesson planning. And so you can look at these examples. So Trade books are just children's books that are usually nonfiction that provide additional information around a topic that we're teaching. So your topic is around ecosystems, around adaptation, camouflage, how do organisms adapt to their environment to survive. So you're going to try to find children's books that align with that. So you're going to, just this week, the only thing you have to do is complete the literacy forum. And so you're going to, in the forum, you're going to identify the book that you chose, and you're going to talk about how you're going to incorporate that book in your lesson planning. And then you're going to actually start doing the pre-planning, or kind of the framework for your lesson. So this planning sheet will help you to do that. So the planning sheet is not due until week 7, but you can start thinking about these things. So here, first of all, and most important, you always have to consider safety. And we talked about safety early in the term. So some of the things that have to be considered, especially when doing outdoor safety, are how do we treat living organisms, student allergies, natural hazards like creeks or trip hazards. So you have to identify ways that you're going to discuss those. And then down here below, so you have the science standard. Here's the literacy standard I've given you. You're going to also address. So as you think about picking your trade book, you're going to think about how are you going to have students do this with the trade book, ask and answer questions to demonstrate understanding, referring explicitly to the text as the basis for the answers. So you have to incorporate your literacy in a way that students will be actually doing this in your lesson. Now that you have your standards, you're going to start to try to draft some learning targets. What do you want students to accomplish in the lesson? Your project learning tree activities have learning targets, so use those as an examples. They're called objectives or outcomes. And then you're going to have to incorporate also something to do with literacy, both reading and writing. So you're going to want, for instance, to say something like, students will be able to ask and answer questions about whatever your book is, and using examples from the text. Okay, so here's where you list the trade book you chose. Here's where you're going to describe a notebook. So I'm going to go into that. The notebook page is what you will turn in week 7. And then what materials will you need for your lesson and how much? So this is kind of your pre-planning. You're going to do this and turn it in week 7. So this does not need to be turned in week 6. You're going to continue it on to week 7. It states that in the to-do list. So the only thing you have to do this week is the literacy forum. Going into week 7, you're going to create a notebook page for your students. Many of the project learning tree activities already have a notebook page, and if you actually go to our Google Drive, you will see in the folder for birds and worms, I have actually given you an example of what a notebook page would look like. So I am having students answer information about camouflage, and I've created something that's student-friendly, that students would be interested in doing, and is grade appropriate. So here are some other materials. This was for collecting data during the lesson. So those are just examples of what are the materials I used for the birds and worms, or somebody used and I included it as an example. So going back to our to-do list, week 7, create a notebook page. Sometimes the notebook pages are already available in the PLT book. So it includes student activity pages, and that might be what you use. You can, if it doesn't, or it doesn't make sense to use it, you can create your own. Okay. Week 7, you are going to finish filling out the planning sheet, and you're going to submit both the notebook page and your planning sheet for week 7. So if we go back to our Canvas site, you'll see, so week 6, the forum, the literacy forum is what you're going to submit. And then week 7 is the notebook page and the planning sheet. So that's what you're going to be completing for weeks 6 and 7. Again, you can do this by yourself. You can do this with your PLC group. You'll just need to make a plan to work together, how you're going to split up the work. And then you're going to need to make sure to update this sheet and let me know who's doing individual and who's doing together. So that's a lot for week 6 and 7, but hopefully that's clear. You can email me. However, I am not sure how quickly I will be able to respond, but I will do my best. I would suggest you definitely, if you get stuck, maybe try reaching out to your PLC group. Maybe one of your fellow students will help and be able to answer any questions. But again, I'll do my best to respond as I can. All right, well, good luck and have fun planning your first lesson.